There is something incredibly satisfying about hearing the sound of gloved hands applauding a Packers victory at Lambeau. We talk about the Packers win over Chicago and get ready for a tough fight against Minnesota, all next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
This is your Packers Fan Podcast, the show by and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. And me, I'm Wayne Henderson, and it's beginning to look a lot like playoffs.
Oh, man, you're singing already, man. You're singing already.
Oh, man, high on victory.
And I'm Scott Clark, still with you after another Heart Attack Pack game. This is episode 196, recorded December 16th, 2019. And I don't care what anyone says, watching the game at Lambeau in the cold beats watching on TV any day of the week. On this edition of the Packers Fan Podcast, we're going to talk about that game in Chicago. Also, our playoff seed is secured. We will share the updated playoff seeding scenarios, and we'll also have results from our weekly Twitter and Facebook poll question.
And bring on those purple skull-chewing Vikes. We'll preview that upcoming game in Minnesota, don't you know? You betcha. We also share your fantastic listener feedback. You'll want to stay tuned for that. Episode show notes at PackersFanPodcast.com. And in the details area of your podcast player. A win is a win. There were some highlights. There was a lot of good highlights and not so great things. But let's go over the good stuff first. What do you think, Scott?
Definitely. Let's talk about fourth down, because holy cow, there were a lot of fourth down conversions in this game. A couple gutsy ones. There was one in particular that wound up being a touchdown pass to Devontae Adams. That was pretty cool to see, but there was a lot of fourth down attempts on both sides of the ball, which I thought was pretty cool to see. I don't know how I felt about the first one. It was a little nerve-wracking that early in the game to be going for it on fourth down. How did you feel before they scored?
Before they scored, I thought that's a lot longer of a fourth and whatever than usually you go for it. But I wonder if the extreme cold temperatures, which you can attest to because you were at the game, I wonder if those cold temperatures play into the fact that it makes them change their strategy so much that they go for it on fourth down. I did think it was strange that even the Bears were going for it on fourth down, though.
Yeah, it was crazy. I remember sitting there, you know me, I'm meeting a bunch of people I've never met before at the stadium, and me and this guy in front of us were just swearing up and down, like, why are you going for it on fourth down? Don't go on for fourth down. Just take the 3 points. And of course they scored, and everybody around us was like, we're glad you guys aren't coaching this game. So had to eat my words a little bit there. I wanted to ask about that specific play, though, because, again, I'm watching the game in person. I don't get the commentary from the announcers and everything like that. But when I got back home, or when I was perusing Facebook and Twitter, all of my Bears fans friends were complaining, saying that there was a controversial call that resulted in us getting an extra 15 yards, which led to that touchdown. Do you remember what the call was? Because I was not able to see it.
Not specifically, because it was so early in the game, and as the game went on, there were a few iffy calls on both sides of the ball that in the end kind of evened things out. I don't think it was necessarily a gift, but, with the Bears being knocked out of playoff contention officially, in some ways they're grasping at straws, but I could see their point to an extent. But at the same time, the Bears just weren't ready for this game.
No, I don't think so, but they did make a run for it at the very end, and it was getting a little nerve-wracking. It was a fun game to see. I wish that I had been on the opposite end of the field, because every single touchdown that was scored was in the opposite end zone of the one that I was next to.
Oh, man. I was even mentioning that to my wife, going, I wonder if that's at the end zone where Scott's at. I got to ask him about it, but apparently all the good stuff happened at the other end.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, it was still fun to go, but every single score was over there. And I'm not kidding, man. The gloved hand thing is for real, because it was cold. I think it got down to like 8 degrees at one point. And when we started, it was not bad at all. I mean, we were doing some tailgating outside, and when we went inside, we're like, this is not that bad whatsoever. There's no wind. The sunshine is out. It was just a great day of football. And then as the day went on and the sun kind of disappeared behind the stadium and we wound up in the shade, it started to turn pretty bitter cold. And I was thankful for the free hot chocolate that was available to all Packers fans, which I thought was a really nice touch.
That is a nice touch. Yeah. Definitely that burning ball of flame up in the sky does make all the difference in the world.
I certainly agree. It was I was definitely ready to get back into my warm car after the game was over because, man, it was cold, even with all those layers. But we'll get to that a little bit later.
And yet another game where we almost frittered away all the points. Another strong, fast start, and then heart attack ending. But in the end, I'm thankful that we got all the points up front. And we did that like 5 or 6 times this season. We got a lot of points early and then kind of coasted. I don't know why that is, but I'm just thankful that we have those points up front. Otherwise, it would not have been a happy ending.
I'm glad as well. I'm also glad that you used the word fritter as a verb. I didn't know that was a thing, but is that another old manism right there, Wayne?
No, it's a delicious treat, and it can be used in the English language anytime you want.
That's what I thought it was, too. I didn't know you could fritter away points. That's awesome.
Man, I don't know about the education system there in Illinois, but
do you fritter away the bacon too? Is that what's going on?
You could probably fritter away the bacon, but that's a federal offense, let me tell you.
Well, while we're talking about positive things, I want to just say, we talk about this every week, but it was nice to see some more positive return yards on punts. I know that's a kind of a minor thing, but boy, it just keeps going in the right direction, and we definitely needed that. It came at the right time.
Oh my goodness, I'm so thankful we got that guy. But then he was injured like after the first one because on the second or third punt return, we put in our old favorite, and I'm like, oh no. But then I guess the hand wasn't hurt as bad as originally feared and back in for the rest of the game. So that was a plus. And Dean Lowry's late game interception. Wow. I mean, that's the kind of ball control we need from a few of our wide receivers out there in the cold. It was amazing. I don't know how he was able to do all those moves, jump up, pull the ball down and juggle it and grab it. And then we get the ball. That was the dagger, I think.
It was definitely a lot of fun to see, and thankfully that was towards my side of the field, so I did get to see that one a little bit up close and personal. And shout out to Dean Lowry, because he is from my hometown of Rockford. He actually went to high school at Boylan here, so it's like, yeah, Rockford represent. I'm getting all excited. Everyone around me looking like I'm crazy. I've met him.
Well, that's because you had your defense cutouts and everything. You were prepared, your wife and you.
Yes, we were. We did not go with the wigs because it seemed kind of like a moot point with how many hats and things we had on at the same time. So no wigs, no face paint. It was too dang cold for that all that nonsense, but it was still a good time. You talked about a lot of positive things. We got some lowlights as well. Although we did have a decent lead, and you mentioned this already, why did we give the Bears a chance to come back and nearly tie the game? I mean, why aren't we holding these leads? That kind of stuff is not going to get us past Minnesota, much less San Francisco, New Orleans, Seattle, all those opponents. We've got to hang on to a lead if we're lucky enough to get one.
I'm going to agree 100%. I mean, I'm very thankful for all the victories we got, but I just worry that the luck may run out if we don't really push it over the top. On the plus side, Minnesota, yeah, they beat the Chargers this week, and for whatever reason, the Packers did not when we had our chance to play the Chargers, but they didn't look all that great, a little bit banged up, and of course, San Francisco losing to the Falcons at home. New Orleans, I think they're still the scariest of all the teams, so tonight, while we're recording this, I'm rooting for the Colts to beat them, and the Seattle Seahawks, I heard just this afternoon that one of their receivers has been suspended indefinitely. So that's too bad as far as how it relates to the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, you hate to see somebody go down for that. You hate to see that kind of stuff in the NFL at all, especially with what he's out for. But hey, whatever helps our chances, I'll take it.
Yeah, at this point, and hopefully he gets help and turns things around. But I have a big question, Scott. Why are so many of our defenders standing on the incorrect side of the Bears receivers, allowing them to get easy catches? I was like, what is going on out there?
It's kind of crazy, man. I could not believe how wide open some of the Bears were, especially in that second half. Just where is the defender? There was nobody near them. I felt like multiple times we had to rely on a safety to get in there and keep it from being a breakout TD score because they're just wide open with plenty of running room. How does that happen on defense? I don't know.
Yeah. The cold, probably not. I'm just grasping at straws here.
And then when we had the ball, we had lots of drop passes ourselves. Adams and Graham dropped multiple passes that could have easily been caught and could have kind of tied things up with a nice, neat little bow. But alas, third and out, had to punt.
Oh, yeah.
That's frustrating.
There were quite a few opportunities for us to really get, like, practically double our score and just put the game away early. And
it's like it feels like they don't want to win by a lot. They want to make every game like a nail biter for something.
Is that some sort of incentive? I don't know.
It must be. I can't handle it, man. I can't.
Some of the throws seemed just a little bit too high, but I don't know if maybe the cold made some of the receivers run just a little bit too slow. And then, of course, that ball has got to be just a inflated ice cube.
It really does. I can't imagine catching what Aaron Rodgers delivers out of his hands. Those bullets. It's just got to hurt like crazy to catch with your hands.
Yeah, it's no wonder that almost as many receivers wear gloves as do the fans in the stand like yourself. Right. Well, let's check in with listener feedback because we've got a lot of it, and they've got some great stuff to share. They gave us a call at 920-3-PACK-GO.
Go, Pack, go! Go, Pack, go! Hey, guys, Andre in L.A. clinched the playoffs. Yes. But, man, the Packers, they find a way to give us a heart attack every single game. Tackling them on the 2-yard line on a flea flicker. But it's exactly how I thought it would be, that in order for us to win games, we have to win basically dogfights. That seems to be our mindset, that we can't just blow teams out. We're up 21-3 and still let them come somewhat back. But I liked what I saw a lot from the team. You know, the defense did a really good job of stopping the run yesterday. They were opportunistic again. They had a few takeaways. Rodgers wasn't spectacular, but he was very efficient. No turnovers. I think that's one thing that I noticed that we may have to accept, that as much as we all love Rodgers, I don't think he'll be the same Rodgers from before he got the shoulder injury. He just doesn't seem to be as accurate as he used to be. Now, it could be, you know, cold weather, he had an off day. He did become accurate at moments, but there were a few passes that it seemed like he didn't used to miss. But very, very appreciative of the win. I mean, we haven't been in the playoffs in, like 4 or 5 years, so it feels good to get back there. We can get some experience, make some noise. We got a big, big game against Minnesota next week, I believe it is. We beat them. We probably get a first-round bye, so, you know, the ball is in our court. I think it's a really good test next week if we're already in that playoff mindset. So, love the show. Can't wait to hear from you guys. Green and gold, so I'm dead and cold. Andre in L.A., go Pack, go.
Hey, thanks so much, Andre. Always good to hear from you, brother. And I'm not sure how, man, that's a bold statement to say he's not the same Rodgers since the injury, especially considering he had a perfect quarterback rating a couple weeks ago. So I think he's got the potential. It's just that he is making some mistakes. I really don't know what that is. I still think he's a quality quarterback. I think he's still in the top 5 for sure. You know, we're not relying on him to make us come back from behind as often as he was, or doing those pulling off those 90-second drives to run down and score in the fourth quarter, or those Hail Marys in the end zone. We haven't seen a lot of those because we haven't been in a position where we had to do that, although would have liked to have seen that in the San Francisco game maybe. What do you think, Wayne?
I would have liked to have seen that in the San Francisco game, for sure. But Andre makes a great point. You know, Rodgers still top 5. He may not be quite as fantastic as before, whether it's the cold, the injury, or what have you. We need to accept that. And I think by really getting our running game underway this season, I think that evens things out. And so we're still definitely a force to be reckoned with. And, you know, some people are saying, the Packers aren't even scary going into the playoffs. So what? We have Aaron Rodgers. We've got a great tandem of running backs, and we are 11-3 so far. People better be scared because all the other teams look a little less invincible than they did before. So we'll see what happens. Just keep at it, Packers. Keep at it and stay warm.
Has it really been that long since we were in the playoffs?
And it looks like the last time the Packers were in the playoffs, it seems like forever, that's for sure, because we didn't make it all the way to the Super Bowl, but we were in the 2016 playoffs, and we did relatively well till we played the Atlanta Falcons. I think that will spark the memories there, which we don't need to relive any further. But onward and upward. Dan in Denver gave us a call midweek with a nice message to help get us ready for the weekend.
Good morning, guys. Thank you very much for making my 45-minute commute to work a lot better. I love listening to you. I just got to say, go Pack, go. I hope Aaron Rodgers stops staring down at Devontae a little bit, just got to dial that back a little bit. But otherwise, I think the future's bright. Got a good thing going right now. We just got to dial it in just a little bit and dominate a full game. Go Pack, go. Have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks so much for giving us a call, and thanks for listening to the show, and we're glad you're enjoying it. Dan also gave us a call right after the game, brought his own co-host Mike with him this week. Good stuff.
Go Pack, go. Go Pack, go. Dan and Mike from Denver, Colorado. Just got done watching the Packers beat up on the Bears in Lambeau Field. Throws our butts off. Not quite the dominant performance that we were looking for, but it was still a great time and a great game. We took care of business at home. Last home game of the season. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go indeed. Dan and Mike, thank you so much for calling in. And yeah, freezing cold. That's the last cold game the Packers are going to have to play in for at least a few weeks. But they got out with a victory, and it was just good. And we so much appreciate you giving us a call. Let's see who else gave us a call in 920-3-PACK-GO.
Go Pack, go! 11-3 set Aaron Jones free. Yeah, that was awesome. Not gonna lie, I don't have very much to say about this game at all. I had to do a lot of adulting things today, mainly Christmas shopping, but I was able to catch the last 2 plays of the game, including that heart attack one when they tried to do multiple laterals and failing oh so joyously. For us, of course, not for them. But aside from that, just looking at the general stats, I still have to look at the highlights, but liked that Devontae seemed to have a pretty solid game. Aaron Jones continues to prove why he is just amazing, and is definitely our offense definitely flows through him. And other than that, it was didn't see. Looks like again based off the stats, MBS, Kumaro, Lazard, all the other wide receivers didn't really seem to have a whole lot going, which on one hand is kind of sucks, but on the other hand, I didn't really expect this to be a high-scoring affair regardless. Chicago's defense obviously is still very stout, still very good, and obviously they had Hicks is his name. They had him back. So anyways, yeah, overall, again, we're not having watched the game and just going solely off the stats. Looks like Adams had a great game. Aaron Jones had a great game. Aaron Rodgers, was Aaron Rodgers, and did what he needed to do to seal it, to seal the deal. And overall, yeah, loving what we see. 11-3, and let's go on to Minnesota and get the job done there. All right, go Pack, go! Green and gold till dead and cold.
Hey, Jared, thanks so much for the song there. That was great. I love that, and the tandem voicemails. That's becoming a thing, and I think that's pretty cool. If you think that the lateral play, that last play of the game, was nerve-wracking on TV, try being in the stadium when you can barely see it from the other end and really see what's going on. Because I refuse to watch the game on the scoreboard. I actually insist on keeping my eyes focused on the actual play. It was getting difficult to see what it was, but it was definitely scary. I mean, I know even if they did score there, they still would have needed a 2-point conversion to tie it. But it was very nice to see them just put it to bed right there. I'm with you on Aaron Jones as well. I still wish that we would utilize him a bit more. I still feel like we're relying on the passing game more than we need to. And as much as I'd like seeing those long plays and moving down the field quickly, just little by little, yard by yard, let's make it up there. What do you think?
But at the same time, the passing play, although it didn't work, our very first play from scrimmage, we're going for the gold. And it was so close. So close. It would have been beautiful. And
have you noticed this year we haven't been getting a lot of those massively explosive plays? Not as many as we did in years past. But you know what? The record is there, and that's what matters to me more than the explosive plays.
That's true. And thankfully, although the Bears defense, like Jared said, they're still very good. They kept us in check for most of the game, but we did come out with more points when time expired. But that last play, that lateral, I am so thankful that type of play almost never works. And since we did win the game, I didn't bother going back to rewatch that play too many times because it's the Bears. But
am I the only one that whenever they do a play like that, you start hearing Benny Hill music in your head while they're throwing it back and around?
That would fit that one very well. In fact, midway through that play, when it was lateraled, I believe, to Trubisky, it looked to me like it hit the ground anyway, but
it still can. If it hits the ground at a lateral, that's just considered a fumble, right? So you can pick it up and
okay.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
Well, luckily the fumble at the very end of the play was the one that really mattered.
Hi, this is Mark from New Lisbon. Go Pack Go. First of all, just thanks for making it so easy to call. You just go to your Facebook page and just click on the number, and you don't even have to remember the number. So little things that make life better. Like winning. The Packers are 11-3. And good Lord, the people on Facebook are negative. I don't even know why I go on there. But it looks like we're going to win the division. We just have to win one of our last two. Even if we lose to the Vikings and beat the Lions, we're division champ. We're tied for the top at the NFC, although I think Seattle has the tiebreaker. Thanks to Julio Jones, who we'd be more than happy to have him in Green Bay. That was great that Atlanta knocked off Frisco. So breaking down the game, the defense, despite the criticism on social media, played really well. They had forced 3 turnovers, 5 sacks. Individually, Dean Lowry, that interception was beautiful, and that was a great play at a real critical time. Kenny Clark, man, this guy's headed for the Pro Bowl, in my opinion. 2 sacks, 3 tackles for losses. I think he had a couple of quarterback hits. And even Rashawn Gary, the guy that everybody wondered where he was half the season, had a sack. So I think the defense is coming around. I think the coverage is getting better because the pass rush is good. So I don't know if it's a championship defense, but I think it's starting to take shape. Granted, it was the Bears and Mitchell Trubisky. On offense, we outrushed the Bears, which is good, and it's nice to see Devontae Adams healthy again. He had 100 yards and a TD. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, boy, that first pass of the game was frustrating, and I don't know if you noticed it, but at halftime, Jimmy Johnson and Howie Long were talking about that play and how it was aggressive and that the Packers saw something in the Bears defense and saw a matchup they liked. And then Jimmy Johnson was talking about Valdez-Scantling and just says, I think it's just a lack of concentration. And Howie Long says, no, I think it's a lack of talent. So hopefully that's not the case because he's an important cog in our offense. But a great win for the Packers. They really bounced back after that devastating loss to the Niners. And that Vikings game is huge. I just hope everybody comes out of that game healthy. But you have a great podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Awesome. So good to hear from you, Mark. We look forward to hearing from you again next week. Thank you so very much for your call. And yes, winning makes everything better, and we do like to make it easy for you to give us a call, even if you forget that the number is 920-3PACK-GO. And
I got to comment on his mentioning of social media, especially Facebook, being a little toxic. I don't know. I don't remember seeing anything that would be considered toxic, but I think that the negativity that people are talking about isn't so much them just being negative and haters. It's realizing that we may not be 100% ready for the playoffs yet. We got 2 weeks to go. But if we were going to be playing one of these other teams in the playoffs as we played this game and as we played last week against Washington, I don't see it faring quite as well. I think we've got a lot of tightening up to do to really be a full contender. I think we've got a chance, but it's going to take a lot of work. So I think that's what a lot of the negative people are looking at, is that, you know, we're even though our record is better, we're not playing as well as we could. It sounds like I'm complaining about a win, and I don't mean to sound that way, because it's not at all what I mean. But we should have beaten Washington by a lot more. We should not have let Chicago creep up on us when we were up 21-3 to make that a scary fourth quarter. That's something a top tier football team shouldn't happen, and I think that's what the talk is about. Go ahead, Wayne, yell at me.
You do make valid points, but I'm going to agree with Mark on this one, especially on Twitter. Some of the comments, it was just out of control. You would think that we aren't even in the playoffs, or that we are winning our division with a record of 7-9, which could happen in the Cowboys division, depending on how things go. We've earned the victories, and the teams that we may need to play in the playoffs, sure, the Saints are scary, but depending on how things go, the game might be at Lambeau Field. If we get to play the Niners again, it might be at Lambeau Field. It's totally different. And then, we get a week off in the playoffs, and sure, the Packers did not come out of the gate after the bye week, but a week off in the playoffs could be a totally different thing. And nobody in the NFC looks unbeatable. And in fact, in the AFC, even the Ravens don't look unbeatable. Just when they play the Rams, they look really unbeatable. So we can beat anybody. Anybody can beat anybody. I mean, the Jaguars, they beat the Raiders and caused Raiders fans in Oakland to throw a little mini riot, throwing stuff at security and just being Oakland fans, I guess.
I do like what he said about our defense, though, because I was sporting my Kenny Clark jersey, man. It was my fifth layer on top of everything else.
That's a lot of layers.
But, we did give up some points in the fourth quarter, but leading up to that, to hold them to 3 points, and with the 2 interceptions and all that Kenny did, and it really solid performance up until we kind of let Chicago catch up. It was really good.
And even at the beginning of the game, the midway through the first quarter on television, the men calling the game gave a lot of shout outs to Kenny Clark and how great he's been doing. And that's well-deserved praise, because, he is definitely one of the MVPs of our defense, no doubt about it.
And if you're just listening to this for the first time, be sure to go back a few episodes, because Wayne and I actually had an opportunity to interview Kenny on an episode quite a few weeks back, but it was a lot of fun to chat with him, so be sure to check that out.
I still can't believe that happened.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, wasn't it?
It was.
Well, let's move on to emails. We got one from Steven. He says, Steven checking in from Palace Park, and the Heart Attack Pack is back again for a second week in a row. The coin toss was interesting. I heard Aaron Rodgers didn't recognize the coin used for the toss, that one side of the coin was red. I did not. I obviously could not see the coin toss. Did you see anything like that?
That wasn't on the portion that I was able to see on TV. I didn't see any hubbub about the coin toss, just that I guess we won the coin toss and deferred. I don't know what we're doing to be able to win so many coin tosses, but one of these days we need to ride with it and say, we want the ball and we're going to score.
No, don't say that.
Well, not when you're playing Seattle.
Right. He goes on to say, regarding Wayne and Scott's Culver's bet, there are 2 more games left this season. Question is, are you going to include playoff games and even possibly the Super Bowl? I don't know if I should answer for you, Wayne, but I kind of figure we just keep that train rolling as long as we're still in it.
I think so, too. As long as the Packers are rolling and we're trying to guesstimate the score of a Packers game, I say we go all the way to the Super Bowl.
I agree. Stephen continues and says, but it as always, it will be great to hear how Wayne and Scott thought the Packers did in the game. Last week's podcast was one of the best. Scott, did you get a hot drink of your choice at the game? To answer that question, I got a hot drink, not necessarily of choice, but they were, like I said, giving out 8-ounce cups of hot chocolate to anybody. You couldn't get more than 2, so I brought one for my wife, one for me, and took advantage of that a couple times, and it definitely hit the spot to try to keep my core warm. He goes on and says, and Professor Clark, how many layers of clothes did you need to have on if you feel like you have to attend a game in a cold weather city? I think the number was 5. I had 5 layers on my upper body, 2 hats, a couple pairs of gloves, heat warmers. I even tucked heat warmers. I had 2 in my boots, 2 in my gloves. I even took one of my stocking caps, and you know how stocking caps kind of fold up on the front and all the way around?
Mm-hmm.
I stuck 2 of those hand warmers inside that fold and put them over my ears to keep my ears warm because they were starting to get a little painful there towards the end of the game. And surprisingly, they worked quite well, which was pretty cool.
I saw something mentioned on a podcast earlier this week that I thought this could be another nice addition as well, depending on how bulky it is. I guess there are vests or maybe even jackets that have battery packs in them. So they're USB charged, and then I don't know how long the heat lasts, but anything helps, right?
Well, yeah, it's basically like a electric blanket, but you're wearing it with sleeves and everything like that. That's really all it is, just a battery powered electric blanket, and really it doesn't take a whole lot of heat, especially if you're on that bottom layer. You just kind of keep just a little bit to keep you thawed out. That would probably work, but I'll bet you it's got to be heavy and bulky, like you said too. So probably not comfortable either.
No, maybe not. But the one other thing that might factor into your comfort level, did you sit on the metal stands or did you rent or bring chairs with backs so you could at least be a little more comfortable?
Well, we did not rent the seats, but my wife is a planner, so she actually brought Packers blankets with us, and we sat on those when we sat, but we didn't sit very long. We were on our feet for most of the game, maybe in between quarters and between halves, but pretty much everybody's on their feet for almost every play during that game. So let me finish up Steven's email here. He says, remember at the beginning of the season, Scott had an issue with Andre from Los Angeles, Go Pack Go, as he said it was weak. But look how strong they have been for weeks. And hey, I've called out Andre and said that he's gotten amazing. His Go Packs Go have improved and gotten better and better each week, so I love it.
And you'd be surprised how early in the morning his calls come through. I'm like, he must wake up extra early to be able to be that fervent with his Go Pack Goes at 6:30 in the morning.
He just takes 3 shots of espresso and then does it right after that. Gets on a treadmill.
Nice.
And then does it. Anyway, I wish all the listeners that are celebrating Christmas a very Merry Christmas. Same goes to Wayne and Scott if you both celebrate, and Happy Holidays to everybody. Stephen Verharen. Thanks so much, Stephen.
Yes, Merry Christmas to everybody. I can't believe it's only about a week away.
It's kind of crazy.
Okay, next week the game is on Monday night, and we're going to preview the Minnesota game a little bit later. The day after the game is Christmas Eve, and of course Christmas right after that. We have both promised our families that we would not be doing podcasting shenanigans on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
Yeah, my wife might leave me. I may get a lump of coal in my stocking if I do that.
So it's going to be interesting with the game next week. We're not 100% sure which way we are going to go with the recording. We may just need to get right on right after the game and knock the podcast out even without listener feedback and giving you a chance to send it in. If it goes that way, we apologize. It's Christmas and family, and that's just the way it's got to be. But we'll have lots of feedback after the Lions game to share because, New Year's Eve, that's a whole different thing.
For sure.
So anyway, also got an email from Caleb, Wayne, and Scott. Caleb, Kathy, and Roy Fisher from Green Bay, Wisconsin. What a win we had. I mean, it was a sloppy game, but we still came away with the win. We had some great players like Kenny Clark with 2 great sacks. And Jake Kumaro did a great job, too. And let me stop just briefly. That Jake Kumaro play was insane to watch on TV.
Well, it was insane for me because it was on the opposite end of the field as most of these were. And I said, who caught that? Because I couldn't see the number from where I was. And somebody said it was Jesus. Apparently Kumaro, because he's got the long hair, is now Jesus, which made me laugh.
That's crazy. In the 80s, a lot of guys had long hair. But yeah, Jake Kumaro, he does not look like any of our other wide receivers, and that play was great. Caleb continues, now it's on to the purple people, and let's hope we can get a win for my 29th birthday.
Hey, happy earlier birthday.
Yes, happy early birthday, Caleb. Bring home the victory, Packers. Let's do it. 29. I remember being 29. But anyways, Go Pack Go, bleed green and gold, till dead and cold. So we don't really have a feedback deadline this week because we may be doing the show right after the game, with or without feedback. And we apologize.
If you do call, you may want to call right at the stroke of 000 because it's going to be recording. If we record right after the game, you're going to not have a whole lot of time to get those in.
Or if, say, the Packers are up 37-3 midway through the third quarter, go ahead and call then.
All right. Let's do that.
Let's hope for the best. Our weekly Twitter poll results and from our Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group. Since our Packers are playing indoors in Minnesota Monday night, do you think the lack of weather conditions, since they're not playing in that old dump in Minnesota where the roof caved in, since there's going to be a lack of weather conditions, will that help or hinder the Green Bay Packers?
I think it's going to hinder it, to be honest with you. We play best in cold weather, in our element. Even if it's not on Lambeau Field, if it's in the Northeast or anywhere north where it's nice and cold, we tend to do better. And, look what happened in California. We can't win in California where it's nice. And we're basically going to be not in California, but it's going to feel like California inside that dome. So it makes me a little nervous.
I'm going to beg to differ. I don't think it's going to feel like California at all. I think the main problem with the games in LA last year against the Rams, this year against the Chargers, and against Frisco had more to do with coming all the way out to the West Coast and not acclimating and all of that stuff, and maybe even overconfidence in one or two of those games. Of course, it's not going to be easy to play in Minnesota, but I'd like to think since it is indoors, it's in a lot of ways going to be similar to playing in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know what happened there earlier this season. So I think without the football being a frozen block of ice or covered with wet, slippery rain, I think it's going to be a benefit. But the results from you, the voters, which is what really counts, it's almost right down the middle. 47% said the lack of weather will help us. 53% said it would hinder us. So basically, it could go either way. It's a coin flip, no matter what color the coin is this particular week. You're 11-3 Green Bay Packers. 11-3, my goodness. We head on the road to Minnesota to play the hungry 10-4 Vikings on Monday Night Football, also known in other parts of the world as Tuesday Morning Football. That's a for sure thing. Packers lead the all-time series, as well they should, 61-53-3, and some Packers-Vikings memories. In 2000, remember that game in the rain? Brett Favre to Antonio Freeman, who's on the ground, and it's in overtime, and the ball just lands on him, but nobody touches him. And Antonio Freeman gets up and runs all the way in for the game-winning touchdown. It's the famous he did what game. Did you see that one live, Scott?
Oh, you know I did, man. That was a long time ago, 19 years ago. Great memory. Oh, so good.
Definitely one of the top 20 Packer highlights of all time. And then, of course, on the other side of the coin, whatever color it was that day, Brett Favre as a Minnesota Viking. We all remember October 5th, 2009, when Aaron Rodgers and the Packers played against Brett Favre and the Vikings. Boy, does that sound strange. That was Monday Night Football. And, of course, Brett Favre smoked the Packers that season. We got revenge the next season, but that season, Brett Favre just owned us. And that Monday Night Football game is still the highest rated cable television football game airing ever. The ratings were just through the roof.
I believe it. I don't know if I told you this, but I actually got to tour the Vikings Stadium, not this past summer, but the summer before. My wife and I were out there visiting and took a trip through US Bank. And wow, what a stadium that was. But we got to go see the locker room, and I actually have a picture of me standing in front of Brett Favre's locker, where he stood and hung his jersey and stuff. That was kind of a cool moment. Yeah. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to my keys to an amazing 12th Packers victory. Number one, the secondary must contain. Kirk Cousins is having the season of his career, let's be honest. And the defense just can't be out of position when it comes to coverage like they were for many plays this past game. The Packers need to cover all of those lanes and look for more opportunities for turnovers and then capitalize them instead of just punting and keeping the ball away. We need to see that defense from the first couple of games of the season. So basically what we had this past week, but just a little bit more. Secondly, we got to be ready for a hungry Vikings team. Minnesota needs this win to help them stay alive in the conference, and they will be wanting it badly. Couple that with the fact that the game takes place on their turf, away from the elements, makes this one especially tough. We just can't let their desire or the crowd's influence affect our resolve. We have to want this win more than the Vikings do. Lastly, we got to play all 4 quarters instead of just one. I know that sounds easy from a guy that sat there and watched the game instead of actually playing it. I totally get that. But it's starting to feel as if the Packers are only putting their best foot forward for part of the games. Granted, those were the right times, but we have to treat every quarter as if it's the most important. If we get the lead, hang on to it and not give up the opposition a chance to catch up. If we're behind, get caught up before the final 15 minutes. We're in control of our destiny at this point, and the only way we have a shot at the number 1 seed is if we give 100% for 100% of the game.
Sounds fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go for that. Now, before we predict the scores for this week, let's talk a little bit about this game this past week. Packers 21, Bears 13. I predicted Packers 24-14. You also predicted a Packers victory 23-20. If I'm doing the math the Scott Clark way, which is the fancy way, I like it. I think it means I won this week, and we're tied again.
That's true. We're back to 5-5, so we got 2 games left, man. 2 games left. I can smell. Oh, I had some Culvers this week, by the way, again. Not to rub it in. It tastes better when it's free, though.
Oh, well, duh. But not just 2 games left, because we're in the playoffs now, Scott.
Almost. We're getting there.
No,
well,
we're in the playoffs. So
You're right.
The best part about that, well, not the best part about that, but one of the benefits to that is that it'll be an odd number of games. So odds are we're not going to be tied at the end.
There you go.
So
I like it.
That will help out our cheese curd purchasing. Well, and before we get into our predictions for the Vikings game, I alluded to it earlier with, the problem going all the way out west. Even though both of these last 2 games, Vikings and then the Lions, are in division and indoors and on the road, I think the fact that they are so close to Green Bay and the travel isn't going to be as taxing, I think that's going to be a huge benefit for us.
I hope you're right.
So, what do you think is going to happen Monday night, Tuesday morning?
Well, Monday night, I got a few factors going against the Packers, and I know you're not going to like this, Wayne, but I am going to pick Minnesota to win this game, but I want you to hear me out.
Well, before I hear you out, listeners, did you hear this? Scott, what was it again, Scott?
What my pick is?
Yes.
I am picking the Vikings to win this game. I don't think that the Packers can pull this one off, but I want you to hear why.
Okay.
You've got the short travel thing. Yes. We're on their home turf. They need to win this game. The Packers don't necessarily have to win this game, although we would like to win it to have a shot at the number 1 seed. As we're going to talk about here in a couple minutes, a lot of things really have to go in our favor for us to have a number 1 seed. So I don't think that the Packers are looking at this as a must-win scenario. So I think they're going to be looking at keeping themselves a little bit more healthy for the easier game the following week, which is against the Lions. And not to say they're not going to try, obviously, but I think that it's not a must-win scenario, and they want that must-win game to be the one that's going to be a little bit of an easier ride. So I think they've got that going for it, and I think the Vikings are going to come out ahead 27-17.
Wow. Scott. Mm-hmm. Scott Clark. Oh, wow.
I'm not going to be allowed back next season, am I?
No, you're always allowed back. I do see 27 points in the future, but it's going to be the Packers getting 27 points and the Vikings 24. That's right. Packers will win this game. It might be another heart attack game, only winning by 3, maybe even in overtime. I don't know. But I think we come out and consider it a must win because it would be great to get this one other win that we need to win the division and just get it out of the way this week. And if things fall into place and we do end up with the number 2 seed, and for whatever reason the Packers want to rest players, although I'm never in favor of that, they would at least have that possibility. So,
hey, I hope that happens, man, and I hope you're right, and I hope I'm wrong. Absolutely. I gotta make my pick with my stomach, and cheese curds taste a lot better when you're buying them.
Okay, then. Is it Monday night yet?
Not yet. Well, it's going to be a long day. Whew. It's going to be awesome, though. Well, let's take a look at the latest Packers-related playoff scenarios. We got 2 different things that could happen here. Actually 3 if we lost both games, but we're not going to even go there. But to clinch the NFC North title, here's what has to happen. The Packers have to win, but their magic number of victories to get the NFC North title is just 1. But there is a caveat with that. The Packers now own both a 1-game lead on the Vikings and 2 levels of tiebreakers in the NFC North race, but the results of those tiebreakers could still change by the time the season ends. So what that means is the Packers only have to win one of their remaining 2 regular season games to win the division, and one of them does not need to include their December 23rd contest at Minnesota. And that's because we've already beat Minnesota, and though even that would tie our divisional record with them, we still have not lost a divisional game yet this season, which is why we would have the edge on Minnesota for the conference. Now, the miracle that would need to happen to make a first-round bye and the home field advantage chase happen is this. So the Packers are in control of their destiny in the chase for the NFC's number 2 seed and a first-round bye. So the Packers and New Orleans both have three losses, and the Packers own the tiebreaker on New Orleans. This means that if the Packers win out, they get the wild card weekend off and a home game in the divisional playoffs, most probably against New Orleans or an NFC wildcard team, and most likely would be Minnesota or either the Niners or the Seahawks, whichever team doesn't win the NFC West. So if we really want the true big miracle, that's home field advantage throughout the playoffs. In order for that to happen, here's what's got this is a stretch, but it is technically possible.
Let me go ahead and take this part of it since you did predict the Packers are going to lose this coming Monday night.
Wow.
The chase for NFC's number 1 seed, granted the Packers need a lot of help. We need to win both of our remaining games, and the 49ers need to lose 1 game at least, and the Seahawks must lose 1 more game. And considering the fact that those 2 teams have matchups against each other on December 29th, 49ers Seahawks, the odds of all those losses happening are, not that great. But
can we root for a tie? Will that work?
I am definitely going to root for a tie. I think that would definitely help us out. So we'll have to wait and see. But one thing at a time. First, the Packers just need to take care of their own business, and we'll kind of go from there. Some great stuff happening this week in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group.
First off, Lofia had a comment, and he said, next time, just go for the damn 3 points and run the ball. Shaking my head. They almost lost control of the game. Shaking my head. I'm with you, Lofia. I was in the stands going, take the 3 points. There's no reason to be aggressive this early in the game and that far away. But they did score, so it's kind of hard to argue with that. But let's not make it a habit of that.
No, let's not. That's a lot of head shaking in one short post, Lofia.
I know, right?
Stay safe. Dean posted, good grief. He had a chance to put the game away twice and played like squat. Pass blocking in the second half was abysmal after opening second half drive. Not capitalizing on a good kickoff return by Irvin or the interception by Lowry, both are inexcusable.
Yeah, that's kind of how I was feeling. I mean, it would have been it was nice to keep the ball away from the Bears and keep them from scoring, but we couldn't even get 3 points off of either one of those. That one, especially that penalty that pushed us out of field goal range, was just
that hurt.
Killer. By the way, again, not watching the game, what was that penalty on that play? Because they did not announce it at our game, and the only hand signal we got from the ref that we could see was raise the roof. And I've never seen that. Hand. He was putting his hands up like this, and I wasn't seeing things because everybody around us was all doing this and looking around at each other like, what does this mean? Because we had never seen it before. Do you remember what the penalty was on that? Why we lost 15 yards on that play?
I actually forget. There were quite a few occasions during the game where microphones were not working, and they just chalked it up to them being frozen. Like Pam Oliver on the sidelines at one point, she wasn't available, and another time the refs, and I guess the refs have special whistles that don't freeze to their lips and pull skin off in extra cold weather. So raise the roof, turn down for what? I don't know. But
it made my day saying turn down for what?
I'm here to help, right?
Yes. Also, Granny Cheese said, by the skin of their dang teeth. Grrr. And Marty said, I really think that the call on Trayvon Williams was a major turning point in the game. It seemed that the momentum shifted after that call. If you'd like to join the Packers Fan Facebook community and be part of the conversation, please head over to packerscommunity.com and start your own talking points as well. Some of the other recent posts you'll find include my own step-by-step tutorial with photos on how best to attend freezing cold games at Lambeau Field. Could come in handy in the playoffs, just saying.
I think they will. Those were in-depth photos. I had no idea that you could wear that many layers.
You certainly can.
And the question that came to mind was, did you roll down the windows in the car on the way there, or did you just melt in the car?
Oh, no,
those?
we shed most of that by the time we got in the car. Like you open the back of the car and take off a couple outer layers, and then you have a nice 3-hour ride home.
How about on the way to the game?
Oh, well, we drove to the game the night before. We actually stayed in Appleton, Wisconsin, which is about a half hour south of Green Bay.
Oh, okay.
And then once we were in our Airbnb, the next morning we geared up, like on that movie, The Christmas Story, when preparing for deep sea diving. It was pretty much like that.
Nice. So. Excellent. That'll keep us ready for the playoffs. Also in the Facebook community group, our weekly post every week, so you can discuss the game live as it happens, which should be quite lively Monday night, I assume.
I agree. And also I got a shot of a bag of candy from Albanese Candy. One of our listeners wrote in, and I think was it Steven?
It was.
That always says stop at Albanese Candy. And I did not even realize that I've had a bag from Albanese Candy in my classroom for several months. My coworker has a daughter that went to college in Indiana, and on her way back, she stopped there and she bought me a bag of sour gummy worms or gummy bears. And I've had them in there and never made the connection until the other day when I was chomping down on them in class. And I was like, hey, I've actually got some candy from there. So
that's an amazing coincidence.
I thought it was really funny.
Who would have thought? Now you know. Jared shared the Packers official playoff mode activated video. That thing is beautiful. Make sure you have a tissue handy because it's just that awesome to watch and gives you chills. There's that and more, all at PackersCommunity.com. Taking a quick look around the NFL. Any other highlights from this past weekend?
Well, you mentioned it already, but how about the Niners losing to the Falcons in San Francisco? And again, I couldn't watch the game because I was driving home, but what a crazy finish that was.
Yes.
The final play of the game got overturned, and then it got re-overturned and gave the Falcons the win. I was shocked that Atlanta pulled that game off. Never in a million years would I have picked that, and I'm very glad it happened. But it makes for an interesting next week for sure.
And when you see that play, Julio Jones, the final touchdown, and you see that in slow motion, there's no doubt that the ball crosses the plane.
Right. I agree.
Why was there so much controversy? Maybe just because the refs really want the 49ers in the playoffs. I don't know why. But, yeah, thank you, Julio Jones. And, of course, the Patriots beat the Bengals this weekend. You know, they did get caught cheating yet again. So I'm not surprised. Yeah. So, in the end, Packers 11-3, Vikings 10-4, Bears, no playoffs for you, 7-7, and Lions are 3-10-1. Is that any good?
No, not at all. Not at all. But I hate to be that Packers fan, but it was really nice to be able to say that the Packers knocked them out of playoff contention. That felt pretty good.
Indeed.
All I got to worry about is the Vikings now. Well, hey, if you guys love to play video games as much as I do, I would like to recommend also that you check out my other podcast, The Gaming Outsider, which can be heard at the same places you listen to this one. Shortly after this episode airs, you can hear me and my co-host Zach talk about our most memorable cheat codes from playing video games. Remember those old cheat codes, Wayne? Where you had to punch in all these buttons to get cheat codes? No, not at all.
I've heard of them, but since I am mostly a physical pinball player, cheat codes haven't been able to help me out at all. But I do want to hear about it.
We also played the latest game from the Shovel Knight series called King of Cards. You won't want to miss that. If you'd like to check it out, our website is thegamingoutsider.com.
And Castle Rock on Hulu finished up this past week. Very Stephen King-ish for sure. We talk about the finale, the good and the bad, on our Castle Rock Zone podcast at castlerockzone.com. We got to send out thank yous to all of our MVP supporters on Patreon. First one, thank you, and go to Bryant for all of your amazing support at the show at the $24 Willie Wood pledge level. Also, thank you, and go to Jared Mancini Kerr for your $12 support And at the $12 Aaron Rodgers level as well, our friends in the Texas-only Green Bay Packers Fanatics group, Go Pack Go, and they will take us out at the end of the show, as always.
We've also got a couple $4 monthly Patreon supporters. First off, Jeff Summerfield and Lawrence Harvey. Thank you so much for the help. And then our Curly Lambeau $1 level podcast support comes from Joe Christensen, Matt Haig, Hank Davis from the TPE Network of Podcasts, and Aaron Peterson from the Hollywood Outsider. Check out how you too can financially support the podcast at a level to match your budget and even get cool Packers Fan Podcast logo merch. Details at patreon.com/Packers Fan Podcast. Thanks so much, and Go Pack Go. Would also like to remind you that we are the Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, not yet affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers, but we'd love to be, just saying. If you'd like to contact us, our email is media@PackersFanPodcast.com.
Yes, everybody loves a great logo, and you can see ours on Twitter at PackersFanPod. You can also follow me on Twitter at Wayne Henderson, and you, sir, are at
GoCast Scott.
Correct. And please join our Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group. Visit PackersCommunity.com, join the conversation, and start one as well.
Also, if you'd like to get your feedback in for next week, you may want to get that feedback in as soon as the game is over because, again, we may be recording that podcast episode right after the game. So get those in as soon as you can. Head over to PackersFanPodcast.com and click the Contact Us button for details. Thanks again so much for joining us on the Packers Fan Podcast.
And be sure to subscribe and stay subscribed in your podcast player of choice so you don't miss each episode as they come out. Because now that the Packers are in the playoffs, that means bonus episodes of the Packers Fan Podcast. And in the meantime, let's turn it over to our friends in the Texas-only Green Bay Packers Fanatics group to hype us up to beat those purple ones.
This is Dawn down here in Texas, a.k.a. Granny Cheese.
Hi, I'm James.
Hi, I'm Kim.
Hi, I'm Melissa.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
Hi, I'm Lisa Montgomery, and we want to say,
Go Pack Go!